Okay, the first most important thing to remember when you are on the bottom of across the side or the side mount is posture. Posture is simply a way of placing your arms and legs in a position to decrease the number of submissions that your opponent can do to you. It makes it more difficult for your opponent to get a better position, and it also decreases the amount of pressure that your partner or your opponent can place on your chest when they're pinning you. Okay? Now, there are three main forms of posture. Okay? The first one is placing the forearm underneath the armpit that is closest to the head here. The second form of posture is placing the forearm across the throat. And the third form of posture is placing the arm underneath the armpit that is closest to the legs. Now, each form of posture has its strengths and its weaknesses. When it comes to the amount of pushing power you have, posture number 1 and posture number 2 are the strongest, yet they also kind of expose your arms a little bit more to arm locks. The third form of posture, which was the one that was underneath the armpit here, is the weakest when it comes to your pushing motions, and it's used more of a transition to go to somebody's back. However, your arms are a little more protected as far as submissions on the arm, but in a way it also exposes your neck a little bit. In this tape, I'm going to cover the form of posture, which is mainly the second one, which is forearm across the throat here. Okay? We will go over the other forms of posture in later tapes. When you have this form of posture, what you want to remember is when you push with your forearms, you want to use the bottom half of your forearm. What I mean by this is if you look at the forearm being from here to here, I want you to imagine the halfway mark being right in the middle. Anytime you push, you want to use anywhere from the middle to the elbow, not above. Okay, this is a much weaker part of your body to push with than this bottom portion. So when he has his forearm at my hip here, he has the middle of his forearm right at my hip bone. And when he has this arm across the throat, he doesn't have his hand or his wrist across my throat, more of the bottom here. Now, as far as this leg goes, when I am on this side, he has to keep this leg up, putting his foot on his thigh, and he wants to press his knee up against my belt line here. This makes it much more difficult for me to try to mount or switch to another position here. Okay? You don't want to cross your ankles, and you don't want to keep this leg loose here. Okay? You want it pressed right against the belt line, but you don't want to press too hard and tire yourself out here. So once again, this is the basic form of posture that we're going to start with. Okay, before we start with the escapes, I want to mention that when you're practicing with your partner, I don't want the partner who is on top, who is pinning, to pin with all their body weight and with a lot of pulling motions. I want them to be real light, resting actually a lot of body weight on their elbows and knees, mainly because I want the person on the bottom to be able to get a feel of the technique and not have to initially deal with a lot of body weight there. Okay? So when you see my partner demonstrating with me, he won't be trying to crush me and put all his power initially. Okay? The first escape we're going to go over is pulling someone in the guard. When I start off with posture here, the most important thing initially you're going to do is get space between your body and his body. And this is accomplished by two things. Number one, it's accomplished by the pushing motions of your arm, and number two, moving your hip out. If you notice, he's hooking behind my head. This is a very strong pulling motion for him. When I try to push with my arms, I do not want to try to push straight up in the air like I'm trying to bench press, because his pulling motion is taking his body and driving it straight onto my chest, which is driving it straight into the ground here. Okay, so if I was to try to push straight up, and he was to just go ahead and give me a little resistance, there's no way I'm going to move him. What I need to do is I need to lift my elbows above my head as I lift my head up off the ground, kind of like I'm doing a crunch. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm lifting my elbows this way and not this way. By doing this, I'm not going against his pulling motion. Okay, so I lift my elbows above my head and lift my head up. It's very important I lift my head up too. I don't want to lay my head flat on the ground here. Okay, as I do this, I plant this foot, I scoop my hip out, and when I'm on my side, my bottom shin goes across the belt line. After it goes across the belt line, what I do is I put my hands on the shoulder and on the hip, and I push and I move my body so it is now parallel with him, so I straighten my body out. From here, I take the foot that is across his belt line and I plant that foot on the ground. Then I scoop my hip out the other way, pull it out, and now I have him in my guard. From another angle, here. So it's very important, once again, not straight up, but above your head here. Lift your head up. This is the most important thing when you start pulling somebody in your guard. So I lift the elbows up and scoop my hip out, bring the shin across the belt line. Do not put the shin on the ground. It has to be across the belt line. Straighten your body out. When you straighten your body out, don't try to push him away. Always imagine you're dealing with somebody who is bigger and stronger than you are. What you want to do is move your own body away. Plant your foot on the ground and then scoot your hip out the other way to clear room in order to pull your foot out and pull him in your guard. One more time. Lift up, scoot your hip out, shin across the belt line, straighten out, foot on the ground, move your hip out one more time, and then pull him in the guard. Okay, here are two variations off of escape number 1 here. Sometimes as you begin to pull your opponent in the guard, he realizes what is happening and he tries to get away from you by circling towards your head. When this happens and his leg is kind of extended, you're going to take your other leg and you're going to hook over top. What this does is anywhere that he moves, he begins to drag you. Go ahead and do a little more. You see how he just pulls me along here. Okay? Once I've got this hook in, I plant the foot on the ground, scoop my hip out, and then I pull him in the guard. So majority of the movement is pretty much the same. Once again, here, I begin to pull him in the guard. He realizes what's happening. He circles. I trap his foot on the ground, scoop the hip out, and pull him in the guard. That's the first variation. The second variation. Sometimes, as I do this here, his foot is kind of close to his butt as he circles, and I don't have a leg to hook over top. What I do is I plant my foot on the ground and I push with my shin that's across his belt, and I scoop my butt out a little more, and then take this foot and hook it on the inside of his thigh. Same thing, as he begins to circle, this only drags me along with him here. I take my right foot that is across his belt line, I plant it on the ground, I scoop my hip out, and now either I can pull my legs out to go to the closed guard or keep them between the legs for the open guard. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's go over that one more time. So I posture, I pull him in the guard, he begins to scoop, I scoop my hip out, hook on the inside of the thigh, he begins to move, it just drags me, and I pull him in the open guard or pull my legs out for the closed guard. Escape number 2. What happens now is you begin to pull your partner, your opponent, in between the guard, and he realizes what's happening. So he takes his hand and moves it from this side to the side that is closest to him, and he uses his arm to block me from pulling him in the guard. When he does this now, I move my hip out just a little bit more, take my top leg and bring it up and slide my shin right to the bend of his elbow. Now I push with my knee here, that removes it, then I take my bottom shin, puts it across his belt line, straighten out, plant my foot on the ground, and I pull him in the guard. So we're basically using the other shin to remove his hand that is posted on the ground. Once again, here, okay, I scoop my hip out to bring my leg in, he blocks. I scoop my hip out a little more, bring the top shin in, break, straighten out, and pull in the guard. One more time, from a different angle. Here, scoop, hip out, block, top shin in, break, bring the bottom shin in, straighten out, and the guard. Escape number 3, going to the knees. Okay, so we start off with trying to pull them in the guard. As soon as we go for this, he posts his hand on the ground to block. I use my top shin to remove. As soon as the top shin is removed, he puts his knee next to my belt line, making it difficult for me to get my leg in. From here, what I need to do with this form that's across the neck is I'm rotating my hand down here. As I do this, I want to make sure my head is tucked in, almost like I'm trying to get it on the other side of his arm here. So if I rotate my hand, I tuck my head in, and this hand hooks the leg. From here, I take the hand that was on the hip, I reach down and grab my own wrist. I move my hip out, and then keeping my knees bent, I pull here and pivot off my right shoulder, which is on the ground, pulling myself to my knees here. Okay, let's do it from the same angle once again, so I can point out a couple things. So I go here, he blocks, I break here. Now it's very important, remember how I said in the beginning to lift your head up? The reason why is if you lay your head down and he's hooking behind here, you cannot hook his leg because you're getting cross-faced by his shoulder here. I can't go to my knees here. That's why it's very important to lift your head up as you scoot out so you can get underneath him like this, okay? Now once I'm here, I need to hook the leg and grab my own wrist. Now the biggest mistake that some people make is they just from right here, they try to drive forward into their partner trying to go to the knees. This takes a lot of strength, especially when you're dealing with somebody who is much heavier than you. What you need to do is move your hip out a little bit first and then go to your knees here. Okay, from another angle. So I go for technique number 1, he blocks. Technique number 2, he blocks. Technique number 3, hook the leg here and grab my own wrist. Scoot my hip out. Now what I want to do is, once again, pivot off my right shoulder that's on the ground. Don't try to get up on your elbow. When your partner is really dropping a lot of body weight on you, there's no way you're going to get up on your elbow. Scoot your hip out, keep your knees bent, and just go to your knees by pivoting off your shoulder here. One more time from a different angle. Okay, so here, scoot out, break, break, grab the wrist, scoot your hip out, and go to your knees. Okay, the next technique is bridging an opponent away from you. Now sometimes what happens is you have someone who's pinning you and they're kind of squeezing you tight and their knees are really high up, okay? So that means their legs aren't sprawled back and it causes their body weight to shift a little too much forward. When this happens, what you're going to do is you're going to take the hand that's on the forearm that's across the throat, reach around and cup his lat right here on the back here, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to set this person up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge diagonally up this way, not sideways, diagonally up this way. Once I feel him drive forward against me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll him diagonally down in this direction, okay? So once again, I have my leg up so it still protects me from getting mounted. I bridge off of one foot and I go up here, okay? Once again, when you drive against somebody, they will naturally want to drive against you. And when you feel their momentum driving forward, you're going to plant your feet on the ground and sit up as you pull with the hand on the lat, push with the forearm that's across the hip, and turn your body here, rolling them over, and now you are on top. Once again, from the same angle. Okay, so once again, rolling them over is using a couple different things. Once again, the forearm that's across the hip is pushing and lifting here. This hand up here is pulling. You have their momentum, and your body is sitting up here. So once again, you go up to set them up here. He drives back against you, and you roll them down. As soon as you roll them down, what you want to do is sprawl your legs out and drop your hip down. Because if you notice, his body is almost in the position to do the exact same technique to you, and you don't want to get rolled over. So as soon as you drop your hips down, he won't be able to do this technique. From another angle, Okay, so I'm here, I feel his knees really high up here, okay? I reach around and cut the lat, drive up, feel his momentum going, pull, lift, and turn here, and then pin. From one more angle. Okay, so I go up and roll over. Now keep in mind that when I do this escape here, I'm not actually bridging. The first part is bridging, but the actual part of rolling them over is more of sitting up. What I'm doing is I'm sitting up like this and not bridging sideways, okay? So the angle is down like this, and I'm just sitting up and rolling him over. Escape number 5, going to the back. Now, when I go for the escape that we did earlier, sometimes when I bridge up and try to roll him over, he sticks his hand out for balance. When he sticks his hand out for balance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hand, slide my elbow down up into his armpit. From here, I'm going to lift it up and diagonal over this way as I move my hip down and out here. As I move this way, and I clear his, my head clears his arm. This hand reaches around his waist. I pull myself up, and now I take his back. Once again. Okay? So sometimes that when we do this, your partner, your opponent realizes what's happening because he's been rolled over one time. You go up, he sticks his hand out, okay? You slide your elbow down. Use your forearm up in his armpit, lift it above your hip as you move your hip down. Take this hand, reach around his waist, and use his waist as a handle to pull yourself up to take his back here. Okay? Now it's very important when you do this escape that you keep tension on his hand. This is what I mean by this. What you don't want to do is go up, he sticks his hand out, and you flatten your back on the ground. Okay, and then try to do this move. If he's not feeling like he's going to get rolled over, he's not going to leave his hand out there. So what I need to do is keep the tension here, and then immediately get my arm underneath, scoot my hip out, and take his back here. Okay, from a different angle. Okay, his knees are up. Keep in mind, I would have never attempted this, even the first part of this move, if his legs were sprawled back here, okay, because there's too much weight down here. But his knees are up. I reach around. I go here, put my arm underneath his armpit, lift my elbow above my head, and take his back here. Okay? I want to use his body as a handle. It's very difficult to get up. Try to get up by yourself. Grab around his waist. Use it like a handle and pull yourself up. One more time from a different angle. Okay, so I go up, above the head, and take the back. Escape number 6, bridging towards your opponent. Sometimes your partner, when he is pinning you, pins at a bad angle. A good pin, normally your partner is approximately at a 90-degree angle to your body, so your bodies are perpendicular here. But sometimes your partner pins in a bad angle. You see how his body is more like a V to my body rather than an L. Okay, so he's maybe at like a 45. When you feel this happen, okay, so I'm in posture like this here, what you're going to do is the right hand that was at the hip is going to slide down, and you're just going to put it right next to his knee. This hand now is going to reach around, and you're going to put your bicep on your partner's ear. And from here, what you're going to do is you're going to plant your feet on the ground, and you're going to take this hand, and you're trying to arc it and drive it to the ground here as you bridge up. And once I bridge up, I'm going to pop over and go across the side. So it goes up and over, and then I end up across the side here. Once again, from the same angle. Now, it's very important when I do this escape, first of all, and this cannot be done, or it's very difficult if he's not at this off angle, okay? But once again, you feel that your partner is not pinning you correctly, this hand slides down to block his leg from sticking out for balance. This hand reaches around, and at his ear. You want to make sure your bicep is at his ear, because if it's at the bottom of his neck here, if you try to move his head, it's very difficult. For example, watch. Go ahead, push against my arm. I can't move him very much, but if I do it here, push against my arm, I can torque his head very easily. So what I need to do is reach up and drive his head to the ground as I bridge up, and then I jump over and end up across the side here. Okay, from another angle. So I'm here, hand goes down to block his leg from sticking out for balance, reach around, bridge up, and hop on over. One more time. Here, okay, reach around here. Now when I do this, I don't want to do this slow. 1, 2, he's going to see what's happening. So when I do this, it's almost all at the same time. Together, up and over, and then I escape here. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to connect number 6 escape, okay, with the number 4 escape when you get a certain type of resistance here. Okay, so what happens is he's pinning at this off angle here. I feel it, I go bridge up, but he counters by moving his feet around. But when he does this, his weight's a little too much forward. When this happens, I cup the lat, this forearm now drops to the hip, and I roll him over for the pin here. Okay? At a different angle. Okay? So I go for the first technique here, or number 6. Okay, I feel this resistance. Now I come with technique number 4. One more angle here. Okay, so I'm here. Okay, I go up and over. Okay, he drives against me. I feel him really want to put my back to the ground here. So I grab and roll him over. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to go from the 6th escape and connect it to the 1st escape of pulling back in the guard when you get some resistance here. Okay, so I'm here, I go up. What happens is he resists, but I feel that his body is not driving as much this way, and so I can't really roll him over. When this happens, my right hand that is at this knee drops down to the inside of the other knee. And what I do is I push it towards my legs here as I drop my hip down. I'm going to take my top leg, hook his foot, and I'm going to pull it down as I bring my other knee in, and I pull him in the guard here. Okay, let's do it from a different angle so you can see better what my legs are doing. Okay. So I'm here, okay? I go up here, he balances out, this hand shifts here, and I pull it toward my leg and I hook it here. This hand now slides to this knee, put the shin across, and now I pull him in the guard. One more time. Okay, so I start off with posture, roll over, and put him in the guard. Okay, now that we have our 6 escapes, let me give you one example of how to put these in combination when you start to meet your opponent's resistance here. Okay, let's start off with escape number 6. I go ahead and bridge up, and he balances out. I try to pull him in the guard here, and now he puts his hand by my hip to block. I slide my hand to around his throat, scoop my hip out, block it with, break his grip with my shin. He brings his knee up, rotate down, and go to the knees. One more time. So I start out here. I go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, Okay? So the key to being able to escape pins effectively is be able to chain these moves one right after the other, rather than doing one and stopping, letting your partner reset. Okay? Every time you reset, you're giving your partner a chance to reestablish their base and their position, so you always want to stay one step ahead of them. Okay, let me give you another sequence using the escapes that you've learned. Okay, let's say you're going for the first escape of pulling your opponent in your guard. When your opponent feels this, he just squeezes down even harder, making it difficult for you to move. When you feel this, you reach around, reach up, setting him up, balances out. Now you take the back here. One more time. So I scoot my hip out, he tightens up, reach around, set him up, and take the back. From another angle. Here, out. Okay, I want you to keep two things in mind. The first is, I only gave you a couple examples of a few sequences based upon these escapes. I hope that you're going to be able to create your own sequences and combinations based upon your opponent's resistance. And the other thing is that you can use these escapes to set your partner up. There may be a time that you know you can't roll them over because they're way too heavy, but they don't know that. What you do is you use one move, force them to stick their hand out, and then it opens up for the next escape. Okay, now that you've got down these escapes, let me show you what to do when you get caught without posture here. Sometimes you get in a position which your partner gets you and he dips his head down, he's squeezing hard, and you can't get your arm into the proper position here. This makes a lot of the escapes really difficult to do. Now here's one way to get some space in order to get your forearm across the throat. What I want to do is I want to lift my legs up and pop my butt up off the ground like this, almost like I'm taking my stomach and hitting him on the side of the ribs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my hands here just in case I can get some space, and I'm going to slowly start sliding it, so watch. Here. And then now I have posture here. Okay, once again. So what I want to do is, once again, pop my legs up. When I pop my legs up, I do not want to let my feet touch the ground. So I don't want to do this. I don't want to go up and then drop. This is incorrect. I need to pop up and don't let the feet touch the ground. You don't need to have a lot of strength. You kind of just need a little bit of endurance in your abdominal muscles. So I put my hand into place, I pop up, and every time I pop up, it gives me a little bit of room in order to get posture. This way of getting space is far more effective than bridging. The reason why is when you bridge, for a split second, you see how nothing is guarding me from getting mounted. It's very easy as I come down from the bridge for him to take the mount. While when I pop up like this, I'm still being protected from him taking the mount. Okay, here's another way to get your arms into posture. Besides just popping your legs straight up, what you're going to do is you're going to swing your legs up and down almost in the shape of a V. What you're going to do is you're going to come up here, down, and then up again. Now as you do this, you're rotating, you're trying to lift your shoulders up off the ground. Now when I do this, it's not like I'm going to roll my partner over, but once again, I just need to make the base that he is on unstable. He's laying on me, I'm flat, I need to make that base unstable here. So I'm here, so I just wiggle around, it becomes unstable, and I get a couple inches, just enough to get the posture in so I can do my escape. Okay, so once again, go ahead and squeeze me a little tighter here. Okay, so I don't have posture, I can't get this in. I start swinging here, just to get enough space for posture to come on in. So the two motions that we have are either straight up and down, like this, or going up and down in a V direction, like this. Okay, here's another situation in which you may get caught without having good posture. Sometimes when you're on the bottom of a pin, your arm gets caught here. this is the worst position for your arm to be in. The reason being is all your partner has to do is either jump to the other side or take the mount, and he puts you in the shoulder hold choke. Go ahead. All they do is mount, and look, your arm is right in the position to get choked. So this is very bad. Of all the positions, you never want your arm on this side here. Okay? Go ahead, lift your head up a little bit. So you'd rather have forearm across the neck or arm on some variation on this side, but never on this side. But sometimes when you're wrestling, your arm happens to be here. When you realize this, you want to bring your arm down. But sometimes he will put his head down, and it's very difficult for you to get your arm back on the other side. When this happens, all you have to do is just keep one leg up, still blocking him from mounting, and you're going to lift up and bridge a little bit, and your arm pops onto the other side. Once again, here, I try to bring this down. This is kind of difficult. I bridge up just for a split second, and my arm is now on the other side. And I can start doing the other things I need to do to get posture if necessary. Now, sometimes this is a little bit difficult. Maybe he's squeezing real hard, he's real heavy, and you have a difficult time bridging here. When this happens, I want you to lift your legs up and take your hand and grab the inside of your thigh. From here, you can cross your ankles or just use one leg. It doesn't really matter. And you're going to straighten your arm as you straighten your leg, and it pulls your arm to the other side. And now we can go back to getting your arms into posture. So once again, my arm gets caught here, okay? He doesn't let me pull it to the other side. I grab my thigh, and I use my thigh to pull my arm down onto the other side. Okay. One final way to create an opening to get your arms into posture is to use escape number 6. When he's hugging you really tight and he's got a lot of body weight, you can't get your arms in, maybe you guys are a little heavy or you're just tired, whatever, you can't swing your legs, what you're going to do is you're going to use escape number 6 to create an opening here. What I do is, first of all, he right now is pinning me at an angle that is perpendicular to my body, which is very difficult for me to do escape number 6. So what I need to do is I need to artificially create a bad angle. So what I do is I move my body like this here. You see how that, now I've changed the angle on him. And so when I go for escape number 6, it forces him to react, whether it be base out so I can pull him in the guard or whatever here. Okay? So once again, okay, he has a good angle. If I try to do escape, bridge up like this right now, it'll be very hard. I need to artificially create this angle. Sometimes your partner has this knee up close to the hip here. I can't pull him in the guard right away. So once again, I change the angle here. I bridge up, forcing him to balance out here, and I pull him in the guard. Now, keep in mind that when your partner is pinning you like this, this is for him, with his position, arms in this position, the strongest pulling motion here, okay? Now, sometimes when I go to, I change the angle and I bridge up and I try to pull him in the guard, he'll put his hand to the other side here to block my knee from coming in. When he does this, he no longer has his strongest pulling motion. So it's very easy for me in this position to slide my arm around and now get forearm across the neck posture to finish with whatever escape here. Okay, one more time. Once again, he has a strong grip with this arm positioning. I change the angle, I go up, okay? I try to pull him in the guard. He uses his hand to block. Now I slide my arm around, scoop my hip out, and pull him in the guard. So what I need to do is I need to bridge up and scoop my hip out. So the motion goes like this. See that? I go up and then out, all in one motion. Once again, up and then out. Okay, now that you have an idea of all the sequences and the various ways to get posture, let me show you how I would like you to train these pin escapes here. The first time you do it with your partner, what I want you to do is, once again, this person is not going to put very much pressure on you. He's going to take this hand, hook it behind the neck, and this arm hugging around your chest, and his weight is on his knees here. And you're going to go through all the sequences 1 through 6 that we covered here, in addition to the ways to get posture. After you've done that, what I want you to do is you're going to change the initial arm positioning. So instead of hooking by the neck, his arms are going to both be on this side here. And once again, you go through the exact same thing. Number 1, pulling in the guard. 2, hand and hip. hip, knee here, going to the knees, so on and so forth here, okay? You actually find that from this second position that we're starting from, it's actually a little bit easier for you. I wanted you to start from the hardest position possible and then move on to the easiest one. Once you've done that, what I want you to do is your partner's going to go back to the first position and he's going to start with his legs sprawled out. Now he's going to just drop his body weight on you. He's not going to do much pulling motions with his arms. He's just going to use body weight. And then you're going to run through the exact same sequences, 1 through 6, getting posture, everything like that. And then after that, you're going to do the same thing, starting with arms on this side here. Okay? And finally, once you've gotten the hang of that, you're going to go back to this. And now your partner is going to not only put his body weight, but he's now going to start squeezing a little harder with his upper body here. Okay, go ahead, squeeze a little bit. Do you see how my voice is changing? You want to start from here. Okay, once again, after you've worked this, starting from this position, you're going to start with your arms on this side here, running through all the sequences and ways of getting posture here. Okay, so we start off with minimal resistance and we slowly build up until you're really taking the full amount of your partner's body weight and pulling power.